The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Remake is a huge Switch 2 system seller and the only game that can even somewhat stand up to Grand Theft Auto 6 in 2026 this year. Now, I'm not saying it's going to sell as much as Grand Theft Auto because obviously it's not. It's only on the Nintendo Switch 2 compared to GTA being on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series. More than 100 million systems out there. But I do think when it comes to the prestige or when it comes to the, I would say, review scores, things like that, if you look at the history of gaming on Metacritic, what are the top best rated games of all time where people think, okay, this is the top of the top? It's full of Zelda, Mario, and Grand Theft Auto games. So that's where I'm going with this. But I do think The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, based off of what we saw from this fake E3 slash Summer Game Fest slash all the different companies kind of coming together to bring shows to the gaming public out there, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and this Nintendo Direct was incredibly popular. So popular to the point where I think this is shattering past the dedicated audience out there with the Nintendo Switch 2 or with gaming and breaking into the completely casual realm of people that are watching sports and watching other things and saying, whoa, wait a minute, hold up. Ocarina of Time from my childhood is coming back, because you have people that usually don't comment on gaming all of a sudden commenting on gaming. So I think this is going to be spectacular. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Let's start off with this article from Go Nintendo, and it states that Nintendo Direct sees highest peak viewership of all summer showcases. Zelda Ocarina of Time named most watched trailer. So that is impressive. So while E3 might be gone as you know it, you wouldn't know if you looked at some of the gaming coverage this June. There was an absolute deluge of presentations from game companies, big and small, with all of them showcasing updates on titles we knew about, alongside reveals of brand new projects. Now, the most of the dust has settled. We can look back on what made the biggest waves in terms of reach. Now, this chart right here that you guys are seeing, compiled by Level Up, which tracks VOD views, that's video on demand, streaming performance, press coverage, creators, and community sentiment across 30 plus social platforms globally. They've crunched the numbers from everything shown on and around Summer Game Fest 2026, and they've shared some very interesting findings. Now, when it comes to peak viewership for the big summer showcases, Summer Game Fest, PlayStation State of Play, Xbox Showcase, and Nintendo Direct, you can see that it was the Nintendo Direct that saw the highest peak viewership, beating out Summer Game Fest by about 100K. Along with that, we also see the reveal trailer for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time snagged the title of most watched trailer with a whopping 115 million views across various platforms. What makes Zelda's numbers particularly impressive is that the chart only includes data up to June 11th, which means Zelda's views are based off of just 3 days of response time. It's also worth noting that the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer came in at number 4 overall, which also debuted via the Nintendo Direct. Now, I want to give just a little side thing here before I finish off with this story. People were trying to say that it was a bad idea for Nintendo to get Kingdom Hearts, considering the franchise's history with PlayStation, and it should have maybe been at the State of Play. Well, looking at these numbers now with the Nintendo Direct and the peak viewership, obviously the Nintendo Direct was the right place to put that Kingdom Hearts 4 update after multiple years now. Okay, continuing on here. With numbers like these, it's clear to see that people were very eager to see what Nintendo was up to, and they really loved The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Kingdom Hearts 4 videos. Also worth noting, 4 out of the top 5 most viewed trailers are games that appear on Switch 2, which in the past, especially with the Switch 1, you would not see this. You would not see these games, a lot of these big AAA titles. When you look at the top 5, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, God of War, Laufey, obviously that's not on Nintendo Switch 2, but Resident Evil Veronica on the Switch 2, Zelda obviously, Kingdom Hearts 4, and Spyro. That was also a very big game. People really enjoyed that. And if you look at it, it doesn't just stop right there. The views on Nintendo of America's page for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, it says Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time will be reborn on Nintendo Switch 2 in 2026, hashtag Nintendo Direct. That has over 25.2 million views since June 9th and over 183,000 likes, 54,000 plus quote tweets and retweets or reposts, 14,000 bookmarks, and nearly 4,000 comments. Definitely a lot of people looking at that. But remember those words when it comes to Ocarina of Time will be reborn. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a bit when it comes to the scope and scale of this game, because there's still questions about that. But one of the funny things that I saw with this is that you saw quote tweets from people who don't really have anything to do with gaming. One of them that I thought was really funny was Kyle Brandon. He's on Good Morning Football and one of the big guys on NFL Network. And he quote tweeted this and said, "Me ending a 10-year retirement from gaming when I see this news." I've watched this guy for a long time and I had no idea he even played games or knew anything about Legend of Zelda or anything like that. So that's the type of reach that I'm talking about. People who have never really gotten into talking about video games. Their identity is associated with like different types of entertainment mediums. Now all of a sudden busting out from nowhere like the Kool-Aid man to talk about, give me some Legend of Zelda. Like, oh yeah, give me some Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. That's why I think this game is going to be a massive system seller and the one game that can even be able to be in the realm when it comes to review scores and anything this year of Grand Theft Auto 6. So I do think that it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, obviously, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, one of the most legendary games of all time. Nintendo needs to do a gold cartridge. They've got to do a gold cartridge. I do think, yes, we didn't see too much of the game, but I do think that they are going to have a Zelda 40th anniversary where they're going to break down a lot more. They're going to have a stream and all sorts of stuff. They could even do what they did with Mario, where they took the Mario anniversary and kind of put it together with a bunch of announcements, then packed that into the September Nintendo Direct last year in 2025. But The Legend of Zelda, 99 on Metacritic, highest rated game of all time. And I think that right there is what is going to make Nintendo make sure that they treat this with the utmost care and everything. People have talked about how big is the scope and scale of this remake, and I don't think it's just the N64 brought back with way better graphics. I think it's pretty much impossible to do something like that for an action adventure game. Now, I think that for Star Fox, for example, there's a lot of changes when it comes to the graphical presentation, the cutscenes, and some of the stuff they added in the online multiplayer. But the game itself, a lot of the mechanics and kind of how it plays feels similar. Not completely the same, but very similar. But I think that Star Fox is obviously a significantly smaller franchise, but there was still a lot that they added in there. But the gameplay in Star Fox is easier to kind of put together as an arcade shooter and to feel good in 2026 than an action game from nearly 30 years ago, when Zelda action games have evolved so much since then, whereas rail shooters have kind of still been just the same since back then. So to me, there needs to be a lot more work done on the animations, on what they're going to do with Link's attacks, and kind of how he operates compared to a game like Star Fox. I would say it's going to be similar to a Resident Evil 4 remake / Final Fantasy 7 remake. I think it's going to be somewhere in between that. And remember when I told you guys, remember the word reborn? And I think that that is a very crucial word. Nintendo probably analyzed every single word in this tweet when they say The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time will be reborn on Nintendo Switch 2 in 2026. So when you're reborn, that's going to add a different dynamic. That's not just going to be the same thing. Then I had people coming to my streams and also on Twitter before the announcement, even with big content creators saying, we don't know the scope and scale of this. This could just be the Nintendo 3DS games ported over. That was a somewhat popular thing to say, even after we knew that it's a big remake. There are still some people saying they should have ported over Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time 3D and put those on a double pack and put them on a cartridge. And I'm like, that's lame, and that's not as exciting as a full reimagining make type of thing for the Nintendo Switch 2 that's going to get people to come back. They don't want to play the exact same game on the Nintendo 3DS or the N64. We've already played that a million times. They want to play something that's fully adapted and new for the hardware on the Nintendo Switch 2 that gets you excited. And that's what a full reimagining or remake will do for Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time over that same game with those same mechanics that we've already played for a while now. And so that's why I think that this is significantly more exciting than anything else. But if you look at it, they've got to make changes. Look at the trailer that they released. There's voice acting. Clearly, I think there's going to be voice acting in the main game because of that teaser trailer that they released. Completely rendered, real time. When it comes to the graphics, Link is going to look crazier than ever with that type of style. We have not seen Link in that type of fidelity. I feel that it looks significantly better than any of those Unreal Engine 4 type of remakes that people would do with Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Those just looked kind of off, and just taking like the N64 model and trying to make it like intensified, and it just didn't work, at least in my opinion. I never thought that those looked good, but to me this looks like it's really remade with modern design sensibilities. And I think that once you see him moving around and kind of slashing with the sword and the actual world itself, I think that's when people are going to be like, okay, this really works. Because that's kind of how it was with Star Fox. Star Fox, people were kind of complaining about Fox and the models, but once you actually play the game, you see it kind of seamlessly woven in with the cutscenes and the missions and everything, like the gameplay. It actually feels just fine. It looks just fine, and it plays obviously great. So I think Ocarina of Time Reborn here is going to be the same thing. Now, here's another thing when it comes to this. Switch 2 probably isn't getting GTA 6 this year. I mean, there's still an outside chance, but probably not. So I don't think that's happening. It might not ever get GTA 6. But Nintendo still needs to sell systems for this year, despite GTA going to be a huge system seller for PlayStation and maybe even Xbox to a degree. Going to be massive. People are going to be buying that in droves when it comes to the game itself. But Nintendo still needs something. This is a crucial holiday for Nintendo. They need to outperform what they did last year, which last year they did okay. People tried to downplay it quite a bit and try to make it seem like it flopped over the holiday. That was a bunch of clickbait nonsense when it comes down to it. They actually did okay, but they need to do better than what they did, especially if you have a system that's going to be increasing in price when it comes to September 1st. The system increases to $500 every time you increase the price, especially in this economy. It gets harder and harder to sell the system. Things are already expensive all around. And at this point, when you're increasing the price again, even though the Switch 2 is the most affordable system in the current gen outside of the Xbox Series S, which nobody actually wants, that still doesn't mean it's not going to be harder for people, especially with prices skyrocketing and other factors of life. So I do think that having a massive game like Ocarina of Time that tugs on all the right types of emotions when it comes to nostalgia, great gameplay, having the graphics, and having a system to where you can play anywhere that you want. So people who are busy, maybe they're traveling a lot, they can find that extra time to play games. Because sometimes you go to work, you're working all day, you come back, you're too tired to even play anything. But I think having the Switch 2 to where it's portable, it makes it to where you can squeeze in some gameplay time, breaks at work, on a plane, when you have some downtime. So I do think that this is the perfect game that kind of gets everybody together when it comes to old school fans, when it comes to people that are new to the Nintendo ecosystem and they want to see what this game was about. Also, you have the movie that is coming up. The movie will be coming out first half of next year. I think they even moved it up just a bit. So the movie's going to be coming out, and I think that having Ocarina of Time hit right now at this point at the end of the year, and then the movie for next year, that is a perfect 1-2 punch. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD put together in a double pack on the Nintendo Switch 1 and 2, or just the Nintendo Switch 2, and dropped probably as a shadow drop or a very short window between when they announce the game and it launches. I think it can be very similar to Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, where they announced that when it comes to, I think that was announced in the September 2025 Nintendo Direct with the Mario anniversary, and it launched, I think, October. So it was pretty short turnaround because those games are obviously older, they're already done. So I definitely think that's what Nintendo is holding on to. They're holding on to the 40th anniversary, and they're gonna drop probably in October. I would not be surprised in October if we get The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD and The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD both dropped early October, because Nintendo Switch Sports Resort is late October. So early October, I can see them dropping Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. And then in early November, they hit you with The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo Switch 2 remake here. So that's what I think when it comes to what's happening with The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and the explosion of popularity. I think this is going to be really big. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.